Hello everybody, we're in beautiful Medellín. Actually, we're in Los Laureles to be exact. I wanted to film out here so that you could see a little bit of the view. If you're researching a tummy tuck in Medellín, you've probably seen hundreds of videos where the person looks like they're struggling for a second and then all of a sudden they get up and they're fine. This is not one of those videos. I'm going to tell you what the first 2 weeks actually felt like. The physical stuff nobody puts on the internet, the emotional stuff that nobody wants to talk about, and the things I genuinely wish that someone would have told me beforehand. I had my tummy tuck done here in Medellín, Colombia. If you missed why I chose Medellín, I'll link that video above. But the short version is world-class surgeons, a fraction of the cost in comparison to the US, and I really wanted to come to Colombia to explore because I love to travel. So naturally I started looking into surgery here in Medellín. So the first 48 hours were a bit of a blur. I remember waking up on the table and the first thing I felt were my arms hurt because I did get some lipo in my arms and I also got it done with J plasma. The next thing I remember is being on the table and opening my eyes. There was a woman to the left of me who was crying as soon as she started coming out of her anesthesia, and another woman to the right of me who was trying really hard to open her eyes, but she couldn't. I felt very grateful that my body was responding the way that it should have been thus far. I was paying a lot of attention to the gratitude that I had toward my body. Honestly, that was something that I was practicing before surgery, but I'll get into that in another video. When you're on pain medication especially, you're not really thinking about what all your body just went through. I was just trying to listen to the nurses as they were telling me to keep my eyes open, keep my eyes open. I assume that that is a nurse's way of making sure that you are responsive, that you're awake, that you're alive, I guess. Next thing I know, I'm being wheeled to my hospital bed. I had my own room for the first 24 hours where I had nurses coming and checking on me around the clock, and then my surgeon's office also assigned a nurse to, hopefully the airplane is not causing a lot of background noise. The surgeon's office assigned another nurse to my room where they stayed with me around the clock. I also had my mom with me. My cat also traveled with me, so she was there for a portion of the time. She went back to take care of Kitty and then came back to the hospital room. When they get you up from like the cot to the bed, I needed a lot of nurses' help. I had 3 nurses helping to carry me over to the bed. They take you to the bathroom first, and that was a whole process. I remember barely walking 2 steps, and my body was already sweating. So anytime that I had to go to the restroom, the nurses asked me, "Are you sure?" Because it took a lot out of me just to get out of the bed, even with their help. I was walking hunched over, even though I couldn't really feel physically what was going on, probably because of all the pain medication. I could feel my heart pounding, I could feel myself sweating. So I could tell that my body it felt like a marathon. I could tell my body was working hard. Since you just got a tummy tuck, they put a drain in you and you can see that it's filling up with blood. Luckily, I'm not that squeamish. I never felt like, thank goodness, I never felt like I was going to pass out or anything like that. But the nurses help, they're grabbing you arm by arm and they're walking you over to the bathroom. And my nurses I felt like they were treating me as if they had gotten surgery. Like they were, trying to awaken my lymphatic system. They were going like this, all over my abdomen, on my arms, and they were literally squeezing out what was on the second day, it was mostly blood, but lymphatic fluid as well. When I was on the toilet squatting. They were helping me the entire time. I remember asking a nurse to please wipe my face and my back because I was just sweating so much and it was uncomfortable. So they were a big help. Needless to say, I had someone with me the entire time and I absolutely needed them. I really needed them, especially the first week post-op. I had trouble getting up from bed. Even though I was sleeping on an incline, I needed someone to help me. I needed help getting dressed. I needed help feeding myself. And by the way, the first couple of days after surgery, I did not feel very hungry. I was pushing myself to eat though because I knew that I was sweating. I could feel my heart palpitating. I knew that my body needed energy. So I absolutely let them help me eat because I really needed that fuel. I'm genuinely so grateful that I didn't go through any part of this process alone. I can't imagine how difficult it would have been being alone. Actually, I definitely don't recommend being alone. If you don't have a family member or a friend accompanying you, especially if you're having surgery, even if you're having surgery abroad or at home, I recommend that you at least have some sort of nurse, a caregiver, someone that can help lift you up if you drop something or if you're just not sure, because there's a few days there where you're not so sure what your body is doing. You're heavily medicated. I had a pain bomb, for example. My arms and my hands were swollen for at least 5 days. It was difficult to even grip anything. Honestly, I was just surviving for the first 5 days here. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about drains because I feel like drains are something that people don't really talk about or they gloss over, so I would have liked to have known what having a drain and what taking it out was going to feel like. So I had one drain and it was coming out the side of my abdomen here, and it has to be sort of low to the ground, so it has a clip that you have to clip to your garments. You can see all of the fluid draining. If you're a squeamish person, I would recommend wearing very loose pants or something over the drain and clipping it to the bottom of your pants. If you do that, if you clip it to your garments, you're barely ever seeing the drain itself. And also, just so you know, you cannot really feel where the drain is coming out of. At least in my experience, I couldn't feel it literally the entire time it was in me, and I had it in for about 3 weeks. So the way that they determine when to take the drain out, it's totally dependent on how much you're draining a day. My doctor didn't want to take mine out until I was down to 20 to 30 milliliters of lymphatic fluid coming out of me. I did hear my surgeon mention at some point that if I was still draining over 40 milliliters a day, that they would start to give me a sort of medication to slow down the amount of lymphatic fluid that was coming out. I don't know how that would have worked because that didn't actually happen to me. I did wind up draining about 28 milliliters, and at that point, at the 3-week mark, they decided to take it out. Something I will say that was unsettling is that you have to take out the fluid that is in the drain each day. Otherwise, it gets too full and, whatever. And my mom was with me. She was an absolute soldier. She is a squeamish person in comparison to me. I, on the other hand, want to see all of that shit. Stuff. YouTube, don't flag me. I am a very curious person, and like I said, I'm not very squeamish, so I was very interested in seeing what that all looked like, but I couldn't bend over to do it myself for a good 2 weeks, so she was doing that until I could do it myself. Not because she said that she didn't want to do it anymore or anything like that. I just wanted to do it because if I can take care of it myself, that's just the way I am. I'll do it, But anyways, by the 3rd week, I will say, this is something that I have never heard anyone say before, but again, if you're a squeamish person, don't cover your ears, because the fluid kind of starts to smell. And I'm really sorry, but it's just the truth. I gotta tell ya. And I would liken it to chicken broth. It wasn't rancid. It wasn't, it wasn't putrid. Thank goodness. Like, there was no infection. So if there is no infection, you shouldn't smell anything that is putrid or anything like that. However, you've got something in your body for 3 weeks and it's been draining into the same basin the whole time. I guess it's normal. However, I did get nervous about it, and I contacted my nurses and my surgeon. I contacted everybody, let's just say that. I contacted them all and I told them about it, and they told me that it was completely natural. But since I was so concerned, they had me go the next day to the clinic, and luckily, by the grace of Glob, I was not draining as much anymore. I was down to about 28 milliliters, so that's the day that they took the drain out. So I'm getting into the 3rd week mark here, and I want to backtrack and focus on just the first 2 weeks. So I'll talk about the drainage removal in the next video, linked here. So here's what your daily physical life looks like the first 2 weeks, and I want to paint a picture clearly for you. You have to sleep upright at an angle, first of all. Not because it's comfortable. It's not. And let me be honest, you have to accept in your mind that you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable throughout this recovery. For example, my surgeon told me that I'm going to have to wear fajas for at least 3 months. And compression garments are a real thing. You get used to it though. The reason why you want to sleep on an incline of some sort is because your incision is down here on your lower abdomen, and you can't really stretch it out completely. What I did, I had 3 or 4 pillows behind me, and I slept with one pretty large pillow underneath my legs. I already kind of have a circulation issue, so I always sleep with a pillow under my legs, but I think that it especially helped me because even if I stretched or whatever, I was not stretching out my incision. And I think that really helped. I did not have any issues with stitches coming undone. No stitches were infected. I didn't, sometimes when you're healing and you have a new scar, it scabs over and you can see where your skin stretched and where the scab fell off and all of those things. I did not have any of those issues, and I'm not a very good, I don't usually scar very well. And that is evident by the scratches that my cat has left me over the years. Another thing that is uncomfortable, your compression garments, at least for me here in Medellín, they wanted me wearing the compression garments around the clock. And I had a very, it was a looser fitting compression garment. It wasn't high compression. It was pretty loose. The fabric was soft and everything like that. I just couldn't take it off. And I know that I would have had issues trying to take it off myself and putting it back on. The only time that I took them off for the first 3 weeks until my drain was taken out was when I would go to the clinic and get lymphatic drainage massages, which I did every weekday until just recently. And what I mean by I couldn't take it off, I was not allowed to shower for 3 weeks until my drain came out. I don't know if other surgeons do it differently, but here, yeah, I was not allowed to take it off at home because I wasn't allowed to shower until the drain came out. And so the only time that I ever took my compression garments off was when I went to the clinic to get my lymphatic drainage massages. Yes, I got my lymphatic drainage massages completely in the nude. and that was the only time that I could take my faja off. And the nurse helped me put the faja back on. I would not have been able to put the compression garments back on, especially not the first 2 weeks. Like I mentioned in my previous video, I did wind up asking my surgeon if I could stay an extra night at the hospital my second day, and he looked at me pretty seriously. He's a very nice guy, but he looked at me and he was like, "No, I need you walking today." So that was daunting to me because I had no idea how I was going to be walking. So anyway, I had to leave the second day, and I was shocked, but to my surprise, I was able to walk. I was just hunched over, and I had to hold on to my mom every step I took. Between day 2 and 5, though, I was able to walk on my own, so it does get better. But you have to tell your body, okay, it is time to walk, even though I just had surgery. You can actually do it. You're stronger than you know. Just make sure that you're measuring your blood pressure and your heart rate as often as you can. It's a little machine like this. You can buy it. Actually, let me show you. So it's called a pulse oximeter. I could be saying that wrong, but you push the button. Actually, you open it, put your finger here, push the button, and it will measure your heart rate. I'm at a 104 right now, which is still a little bit high, and right now I'm 4 weeks post-op. So your body is working. Your body is working. Usually my heart rate is like 75-ish beats per minute, so yeah. It also tells you the oxygen in your blood. Mine's at 95, and now my heart rate is down to 98. So anyways, get one of these little thingies. Now I want to talk about the emotional side of things. When I was researching the after effects of a tummy tuck and things like that, emotions came up a lot for folks, and to be completely honest with you, for the most part, my emotions were pretty stable. I do take Zoloft for anxiety. That could have helped me. I also think, though, that I mentally prepared myself for the worst, and acceptance is a big thing as far as like mind positivity for me. If I know that I'm about to go through something difficult or something that people say is pretty difficult, I go in with the mindset that, okay, things are going to be a little bit difficult, and it's almost like a decision that I'm making beforehand that I'm going to try my best to be okay. I'm going to do the things that I know make me feel at ease, and once I get through that acceptance part, it's pretty helpful. If that's something that could help you, I hope that you can take that, and yeah. Anyways, I was a little bit surprised, about how stable my emotions have been, because I had read about a lot of post-op experiences and feeling the post-op depression, and it's completely normal. First of all, something I didn't know, your hormones literally go through a massive change when you go through surgery. So it's not just the fact that you're looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing a different person who, just recently went through surgery, and you might feel like you look a little bit butchered, or you might feel like you don't recognize yourself. There's a lot that goes into post-surgery. So it's completely normal to feel a little bit of post-op depression. I will say that I had a day where I could not go to the bathroom, and I was very frustrated. I did not know how frustrating it could be to not be able to go to the bathroom. The other thing, on day 8, I remember feeling like, geez, like I'm a lot more independent than I was a week ago, but I'm not independent at all, actually. And that was messing with my head a little bit. I did have some tears because it just hit me that this is going to be a long, long recovery, longer than I had anticipated. The other thing that I think really helped me was that I'm not working full time right now. Fortunately, I don't have to right now. I saved a lot of money before this trip, so that's absolutely something that helped me. I don't have children, so I don't have to go to work. I don't have to sit in an office and be uncomfortable with all of this. I get to lay down. I get to watch TV. I get to putz around on TikTok. You know what I mean? So the stillness and the quiet for me was really good. And then I also have friends that I've been sharing updates with back home. So what I recommend, if you can, is try to minimize the amount of stressors in your environment as much as you can. If you're coming to a country like Colombia to do your surgery, I highly recommend you stay for at least 3 weeks. 3 weeks is enough time for you to go to the clinic, see your surgeon in person. He can actually, touch you and see how progress is going. I don't recommend getting on a flight back home a week after surgery. To me, that just sounds unfathomable to me. First of all, you would need to get a wheelchair. Even if you're staying 3 weeks post-op, you would need to order a wheelchair at the airport. You can't think that you're going to be up and walking around no, your body is doing a lot of work and expending a lot of energy to get you back to being healed. Rewind a little bit. The things that helped me were not having to go to work. I'm staying in the country I was operated on for 2.5 months, and I don't have children, and I just have my cat, and my mom was here to help me the whole time. These are all things that definitely helped me in my recovery. But yes, again, I recommend if you're going to a different country or coming to Colombia that you stay here for at least 3 weeks. Your surgery, if you're doing a tummy tuck, lipo 360, this is a months-long recovery. This isn't something where you're going to be able to get up and be good to go within 2 weeks. No. A few things I genuinely wish someone had told me before getting surgery. This is not common sense stuff, and this is very practical information, but it's not information that I found when I was doing my research about getting a tummy tuck and lipo. Before you go into surgery, make sure you set up your sleeping area or your lounging area so that it's ready for you when you come back home. I don't know why I didn't think about that. I just don't know why. I guess I had zero clue how I was actually going to be feeling. I had zero clue that I was actually going to be immobile. There are people on TikTok that I started following who are literally dancing a day post-op. That was not me. When you get back to your Airbnb or your hotel, make sure that your pillows are set up. Make sure that you have a nightstand or a chair right next to you where you can put all of your medication, your water, everything, your lip balm. You're not going to want to get up to get your lip balm. Trust me. You're not going to want to get up for anything. Get your computer, have the TV set up the way that you want it. You are not going to be wanting to problem solve at all. The only thing that you're going to want to get up for is to go to the bathroom. And even that feels like a chore the first couple days. So even though you are recommended to walk, I recommend getting up and walking at least 5 minutes every hour. The first week, by day 5, I definitely felt like I could walk longer. So for me, by day 5, I was doing about 10 minutes an hour when I wasn't sleeping. And then take naps. Take naps when you need to. Your body is recovering, and people like to post stuff as if this isn't a major surgery. It is a major surgery. So remind yourself of that. Get your rest, get your water, and walk as much as you can because you need that lymphatic system working again. Another thing I wish that would have been explained in more depth on videos is that you're going to be swollen, very, very swollen, and very hard to the touch the first week or 2 or 3. I was looking at myself in the mirror. I was all bruised up. I was contemplating putting a before photo here, like from right after getting surgery to now, but I don't want YouTube to flag me. I'll just tell you I looked like a battered woman. I was bruised up like everywhere. I was very swollen, very, very swollen up here, like my upper abdomen. And then I'm still swollen and a little bit hard to the touch on my incision area. I feel like a lot of people get really nervous about still feeling pretty hard, your tissue feeling hard. Your body is producing collagen again and, rearranging itself. So I know that it can be a big concern when you're still swollen on the incision area. I just want you to know that that's not going to be the final product. That's not what you're going to look like. Your body is just doing what it has to do to repair itself. If you have any concerns, choose a surgeon that will be responsive. My surgeon, I text him and he's responsive. I send him photos. Whenever I went in to get lymphatic drainage massages, the nurses took photos and sent them directly to him. So make sure that you're choosing a surgeon that has an aftercare team that pays attention to the details and a place where you feel like you can comfortably ask questions no matter how uncomfortable. Another thing I want to talk about is your garments. Just make sure that you have a system where you're rotating the garments. The first week is going to be a little bit difficult because if your surgeon is anything like mine, they're going to want you to be wearing the garment as much as possible without taking it off because it's going to be difficult for you to put it back on yourself. However, when you become more mobile, make sure that you have at least 2 fajas and make sure you're washing them and rotating them because the fabric of these high compression garments, they're not very breathable. There's some, in mine, there's some mesh, but especially in the abdomen area or the back area, there is no mesh. Like, it's not very breathable. So if you're in a country that is a little hotter, like in Colombia, usually in Medellín it's pretty cool, but right now it's pretty hot. You will sweat, it will smell. So make sure that you have at least 1 extra faja, that you're washing it regularly and rotating it. Another thing I want to talk about is your appetite. Your appetite's going to be off. There were days where I was not hungry at all and I just had to kind of force myself to eat something or pack something that had extra protein. Like, I take a protein shake. I was drinking stuff that had protein in it because I was not very hungry and I didn't feel like eating. Remember, your body is repairing itself and it needs fuel, so protein and water are number 1. You will feel more human by week 2. Week 1 is purely survival. By week 2, you're able to walk longer. Just pay attention to your heart rate again. You don't want to overdo it. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel like you can do everything again, but your body will tell you otherwise, so pay attention to it. So if you're planning to have surgery in Medellín, Colombia, or anywhere else in the world, I hope that this information helped you. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to keep documenting this journey throughout the whole healing process, so I'll be uploading more videos soon. And if you have any questions about the logistics, the costs, the surgeon, where exactly I'm at in Medellín, what to actually pack for surgery, how to plan the trip, I put together a full guide documenting everything that I learned throughout this process. The link is in the description box below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.